Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 5 4 key game picks. Thoughts from week number 4 before I get into my picks for week number 5. A lot went on in week number 4, and it was a crazy one. The Chiefs and the Rams are the only undefeated NFL teams left. Both of them are 4-0. Obviously, probably the one that I want to quickly have my quick thoughts on more on the Chiefs here. The Chiefs coming off a big win over the Broncos, but it did come at some controversy here. Anybody who watched the Monday night game against the Broncos, they had to come back from about 13 points down in the second half of that game. But yet the bigger controversy really was a particular third down where the play clock expired, but yet referees did not see that, and the Chiefs converted a key third down. And an even bigger impressive here in Mahomes throwing a pass with his left hand, which really he throws really with his right. It was an impressive pass he threw to Hill. I think it was Hill. And that really just something. Really, Mahomes is really becoming a key big-time NFL quarterback. I'm not saying he's elite just yet. It's going to probably take a few years for him to even consider himself as an elite quarterback. But really, Mahomes really is for a young quarterback here, this guy's pretty good. But of course, he's got great talent around him. You got Typers Hill, and of course, you got Hunt. It's really a team to be reckoned with. Now, and also talking about the Rams here, their defense really is becoming it's starting to get a little shaky now. I mean, really, they've suffered some injuries in their defense and their secondary, and it's really starting now to become a factor. They may be 4-0 right now, but down the line, as the games get a little bit more tougher on their schedule, this is going to be very interesting to see what happens with this team. I'm not ready to say that both the Chiefs and the Rams are Super Bowl contenders, let alone if they'll actually meet here. They'll actually meet in the Super Bowl. It's too early to tell. John Gruden finally got his first win as a Raiders coach, but of course it came at the hands of the Cleveland Browns. Now, speaking of the Browns here, I personally think the Browns got screwed in that game. There's no question. Now, I know Baker Mayfield didn't play all that well. They basically had 4 turnovers in that game. But there was a key part late in the second half where I personally thought that the Browns won the game. It was a key third down that they converted late in the game. But then they measured it, they got the first down, but yet they review it. And it turned out that I personally think that was really, they got screwed in that game, personally. The ref said they didn't convert the first down. They didn't get the first down, and yet they ended up punting. And in the end, the Raiders tied the game in the end, and they ended up winning in overtime. I personally think the Browns got screwed here. But I would still say, I mean, even Baker Mayfield said in the meeting, it's all on him. Hopefully, that shows somewhat of his maturity. Because especially for young quarterbacks, the one thing about this is that they need to have the responsibilities. And I hope that Baker Mayfield will get better and better, because this Brown team now is starting to look exciting to watch. Hopefully they get some talent around him, and just more than just Landry. I think the Browns, I may say it for the first time, they could be dangerous if they can get the right pieces together. They could be dangerous in the next few years. Patriots finally getting back on track, but really though, this was expected. They needed to beat the Dolphins, and they did it. They blew them out big time here. The Dolphins blown their opportunity to break open the AFC East, and they failed. And there's no question right now, the Patriots, the way Josh Gordon played, Brady's got another weapon that he can rely on. Not only that, I mean, only coming back from suspension is really going to bring their offense wide open here. And there's no question the Patriots now are going to start getting on a run. So, yeah, the Dolphins had their chance, and they screwed up. No question, the Patriots are going to take back the AFC East. The Cowboys had to come from behind to beat the Lions at the end of regulation on a field goal, which really, when you lose Bailey, I mean, you had to wonder about their kicking game. But luckily, they survived. They survived the game against the Lions. Really, the Lions look pretty good. If only the Lions could just get some pieces together offensively and have some defense here, the Lions could be a good team. But it probably may be another year or two if Matt Patricia does this right with the Lions. But for the Cowboys here, I think it's safe to say they play better at home than they do on the road. They're not a road team. They need home field advantage. So far, they're undefeated at home. But let's just see what happens the rest of the way down the season. They're still in it in the NFC East. Whew. All right, anyways, guys, that's pretty much my thoughts here. Let's get into week 5. All right, let's begin with key game number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Jacksonville coming off a win, an expected win against the Jets, and it would have been embarrassing if they would have lost to them. Jacksonville's defense starting to get a little shaky here. Especially their offense here. Their offense was able to get it going against the Jets. But let's just see what they do with the Chiefs here. Now, the Chiefs kind of don't have really... Their defense is also shaky. They really have no defense at all. They really have given up an average about 25 points a game. And it's really tough to say right now. Look, they got the offense. Their offense is good. But if they don't have a defense, that to me may spell trouble for them down the line. But anyway, some quarterback stats here. Blake Bortles last week, 29 of 38, 388 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in a win over the Jets. Mahomes in a big win over Denver last week, 28 of 45, 304 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. It really comes down to Jacksonville's defense, if they're as good as what they say they were against the Kansas City offense here. Expect a pretty good game here. It's going to be kind of high scoring. But I just think the Chiefs' offense may be too much for the Jaguars to handle. And that is why I'm picking the Chiefs here. Chiefs are a 3-point favorite in this one. That number might go down to 2. But I'm still going to stick with the Chiefs here. I think they will beat the Jaguars here. But it'll be a very close game. But the Chiefs' offense, I think they have enough offense to beat Jacksonville's defense here. But it will be a close game here, and it may be high scoring too. And that's what I'm going to stick with: the Chiefs over the Jaguars. Key game number 2: the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is must win for both these two teams. They're pretty much near the bottom of the cellar in their respective division, and pretty much the loser of this game, their season may be over. Matt Ryan last week, in a stunning loss last week, in a game that they should have beaten the Bengals here, but they didn't. Matt Ryan went 29 of 39, 419 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. But really, for that blame here, I blame more on Atlanta's defense than I do the Atlanta's offense here. Pittsburgh Steelers here, Ben Roethlisberger, 27 of 47, 274 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception in a game that really they got embarrassed at home by the Ravens here. But key things here to consider here: Atlanta's got the better offense. Both teams' defense are pretty average. Their defense wasn't really all that good, really. But the key thing here is I like Atlanta's offense a lot more than I do the way Pittsburgh's playing right now. Now, Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite in this one. I don't agree with it. Pittsburgh shouldn't be a favorite in this game. The way things are going right now, we don't know if Le'Veon Bell is going to be with the team. They really got a mess on their hands right now, and I really think that Mike Tomlin has lost control of that team. And a game that both these teams have to keep their season alive. But I really think Atlanta's offense is a tad better than Pittsburgh's offense. And really, I like the Falcons in this game. I'm going to go actually with the upset here. I think the Falcons will go into Pittsburgh, and they may hand Pittsburgh their 3rd loss, even though despite the tie that they have. But that tie may end up hurting them still. And that's why I think Atlanta gets this win here. They need this win badly to try to keep pace in that really strong NFC South division. That division right now is pretty tight. And that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I think they will beat the Steelers here. Falcons over the Steelers. Key game number 3, the Minnesota Vikings and versus the Philadelphia Eagles, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship. The only difference here, both these teams are struggling. Now, Kirk Cousins last week in the loss over the Rams went 36 of 50, 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That actually was the interesting stat there, but he did have 1 turnover, and that was really a fumble. Philly last week, with Wentz going 33 of 50, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, even though in a really stunning loss to the Titans on the road in a game I personally thought the Eagles had. Both teams' defense is a huge question. Both these two teams' defense right now, they're not the same. I think to me, Minnesota's defense has even bigger questions than Philly's defense does. Expect a very close game from this one. The Eagles are a 3-point favorite. That number might be 2, maybe even 1 towards game time. It's a tough way to say it, but the key thing here is that the Eagles play better at home. I've noticed the trend lately that a lot of these teams that play better at home than they do on the road. Remember, the Eagles right now are 0-2 on the road right now. They're not a road team as well as the Cowboys are. Minnesota right now, they need this game more than the Eagles do. The Eagles are lucky to be 2-2. Minnesota now 1-1, 2-1. If they go down 1-3-1, I think their season may be over. The way I'm looking at it right now. Tough pick here, but I'm going with the Eagles here. Home field matters to them, especially in that raucous crowd in Lincoln Financial Field. No question. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles here. It's going to be a tight game, but I like the Eagles to squeak in a victory here. It's going to be close, and I'm sticking with that. Eagles over the Vikings. And finally, key game number 4, the Monday night game, the Washington Redskins versus the New Orleans Saints. Saints are a 6.5-point favorite in this one. That number might be lower by the time kickoff happens Monday night. A couple of things to keep in mind here. Washington's coming off a bye week here and a big win last week against the Packers. But really, when it comes down to it here, it's going to be I predict this game's going to be high scoring here. Because both these teams, now Washington may have a much better defense than the Saints do. But when it comes down to it, when you're playing in New Orleans here, especially when you give the ball, when Drew Brees has that ball, it's going to be a passing duel here between him and Alex Smith. I think offense is going to be big in this game. Anyways, key stats here now. Alex Smith in the win over the Packers 2 weeks ago, 12 of 20, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Drew Brees last week in a big win over the Giants. Interesting stats here, though. 18 of 32, 217 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions. The running game and the defense actually bailed him out. Saints didn't look all that impressive in the first half against the Giants, but they really came alive. Their defense actually came alive in the second half, and their running game really was spectacular. This game here, though, it's going to be high scoring. I don't see any defense in this one here. Even though despite the fact Washington kind of has a much better defense than the Saints do. But when this game, when it's in the Superdome, especially when Drew Brees has the ball, it's going to be high. It's going to be pure offense here. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints here. I think they win this game, but it's going to be a high scoring game. It's going to be very close. It should be a good one here. I'm actually intrigued by this matchup here. But I'm picking the Saints here. I know they lost one game at home, and that was to the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers now, they're becoming a mess here. That's a whole different story. I like the Saints at home here. It's going to be a close game, but I like the Saints here. Saints over the Redskins. That wraps up my picks for week number 4. For all of my week 4 picks, please check the description below. And I will see you guys back here next week when I talk about my pick. Let me rephrase that. I made an error. That's it for my picks for week number 5. I don't know why I said week 4. I mean, I'm trying to do everything all in one take in a video here. Sorry about that. That's all my picks for week 5. For all my week 5 picks, check the description below. And I will see you guys next week when I talk about my picks for week number 6. So, until then, guys, take care and enjoy your football weekend.